So I've had Monsters by Phish just stuck in my head all week. It's this great ballad. It's this haunting minor song that's got this great motif in the beginning, and it builds and it builds, and then it ends with Trey taking this incredible solo at the end. I find it a little bit like a Pink Floyd song. You know, it's got so much space to it, but then there's also so much richness. You know, there's a whole ambient world in there. You know, it's this whole vibe of a song. So here's some cool stuff from that song. So the first cool part is this minor shape here, D minor. You got the minor third, the fifth, and the root here on that B string. And playing it here gives you these other open strings you can hit. For Trey's motif, what it does is it allows that pull off to be an open string. But it's a great shape to know. And with learning any shape, it's important to be able to put it into context. So I'll play up here, so that way it's not confusing with the open strings. So D minor. So that's the same shape as this one. A lot of people know that one. So you're just taking that third and you're moving it up here. And D minor is the relative minor of F major. So the D minor pentatonic and F major live right here. So that way, if you play this chord, you can easily have the jump off points. And the full scale, the big chunky pattern, is going to be the F major or the D Aeolian, D minor Aeolian. So that way, if you play that chord and you want to hit a little bit more, hit some more notes other than the pentatonic, it would give you that. So the main motif is within that D minor shape. It starts, you're pulling off on the second fret on the G string. And then you hit the third fret on the D string. Open G. And that's kind of the main lick. And then there's this open E string. And then back to that D. So it's so I usually put my whole hand here. So that way, if you have that chord there, it can all ring out and kind of help to create that ambient vibe. And then just do a C. The turnaround is this B flat chord to like an A7. But what makes this song so great and helps again create that wonderful vibe, that amazing soundscape, is he's gonna play that B flat like this. So he's gonna hit his thumb for the root there. He's going to put his pinky on the B flat there, and then at the third and the fifth there. So just like your normal, you know, Jimi Hendrix chord here. But the reason he's playing it like this is because it leaves his index finger open to sus it. So what he does is he does that same trick that he just did with D shape. He does the same thing here. And then again, he hits that open E. And then he hits that A. And since playing, if you play the A like this, you can also hit the open A and the open E at the bottom, which again kind of helps to give it that kind of haunting ambient vibe. So the open strings make such a big difference in this song. You know, in that main motif, all that ringing out and hammering on and off of that open one helps create that vibe. And then especially up here on the B flat, that open E string contrasting with that F note creates that half note rub, which is like a Lydian sound. It's the sharp 4 B flat. So it creates all that tension there, which is then resolved on that A. And then the A becomes the secondary dominant of D. Just push you right back in there. So it's a nice kind of stepwise walk down from that tension. So the whole song is D minor to C, D minor to C, B flat to A to D. That's the whole song. But for the chorus, he does that motif. Difference for the chorus. You go back to the motif. So the trick is in the chorus, it's almost the ending becomes the beginning. So it kind of wraps around itself. Not unlike, you know, so it's where the beginning is the end of the previous one. For the verse, he just strums it. And it ends on the D. Back to the top. So on the verse, it doesn't wrap around itself. It's a little bit more of a straightforward kind of verses and bars. So I guess you could play it with the big chunky chords to get a little bit more thickness if you wanted. But I feel like those open notes, those open strings make such a big difference for the haunting. So if you can get your fingers around that, I think it's worth it. So for the solo, level 1 could just be playing a D minor pentatonic. you can easily get by doing that. Level 2 would be playing the full scale, more the mode, which would be D Aeolian. D Aeolian is the same thing as F major, or F Ionian. So what that gives you is it gives you the root, which is D, 2, minor 3, 4, 5. Here's the flat 6. That's kind of what makes it that Aeolian. Then you got the flat 7. And then back to the root. So that whole scale would, that flat 6, the characteristic note, is that B flat. So that would be another way to play it. I think to play it closer to Trey, what you would need to do is play the chord tones of the notes that are behind it. And I think that's what, Trey's so good, he's probably just doing that unconsciously. In the song, I didn't transcribe it, so I don't really know the solo. I know it does start with this great bend. That's the only part of it I know. But what makes that awesome, though, is that he's starting with this very expressive slow bend, and that's going to the minor third of that D minor. So that over the D minor chord, he's hitting that minor third. And then once it moves to the C, he drops it down. And that's the major third of C. So that's why that sounds so sweet. I mentioned earlier that it kind of feels like a Pink Floyd song. But when you listen to it, it sounds like Phish. It's Phish. It's a Phish song. And I think that's what makes those guys great, is, even if they tried to do a Pink Floyd song, it would be a Phish song. And I think that's the overall goal for most musicians, is just to be able to have your own sound. You want to be able to be your own player, and if you have a band, you want ideally you want your band to have your own sound. You don't want to just be a second-rate somebody else. It's kind of that cheesy thing of there's only one you, and you're gonna be only you can be the best version of it. It sounds cheesy, but it's very true. I think there's that Thelonious Monk quote where what's his quote? A genius is one most like himself. I think that's the overall goal, is to get free enough to where you can just express exactly what you're feeling, what you are at that moment. That's the beauty of music. Even if you wanted to try to be the best Trey Anastasio player out there, you'll never be as good as him because there's only one. So I think it's better, when you're taking these YouTube lessons or any lessons that, you take what you like from somebody, and then hopefully you can take that and integrate it into something that helps you transcend a level to just being the best version of the player you want to be. Yeah, that's my, I think that's the overall goal. I know that's at least my overall goal, is just to be able to play the best version of me that I can play. And that's why it's tricky, when you see so many phenomenal players out there, to not get discouraged. But you know, comparison's the thief of joy. You know, it's better just to follow your bliss and focus on what you like. Just try to do what you like the best, rather than trying to imitate somebody else. And I think that's why Trey Anastasio is such an amazing player, because there's nobody else that sounds like him. He's not trying to be anybody else. He's just doing what he wants phenomenally.